Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Melanie, and here's her story. Hello, Ollie. My name is Melanie. I'm 58 years old, and my story is long, complicated, and very sad due to two narcissistic parents. My mother became pregnant at 17 years old in the backseat of a car. They made sure to tell me this at a very young age. I'm like, already too much in for me. Like, why would you know where you got conceived? Ugh. My childhood was full of abuse due to neglect from my parents. My father was bathing me in a sink and gave me second-degree burns on my left foot. Another time I was left alone in a cast iron bathtub with a glass bottle. The bottle broke and I received severe cuts that required stitches. Of course, they classified this as accidents. All of this occurred before the age of 2. The narcissistic parents went on to produce 3 additional children to feed their supply. Originally, we lived in Indiana and we moved to Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama while my father chased employment and my mother produced babies for attention. This was very difficult for me, changing schools every few months. My father was responsible for picking me up from school and would frequently leave me there after the school closed. I remember walking home on the highway in first grade. After my brother was born, he became the golden child and I was the scapegoat. They made it clear to me at a young age that they wanted a boy. My mother would dress me like a boy, cut my hair very short. Then she would try to dress me like I was her play doll. It was very confusing to experience this at such a young age. They classified me as the tomboy and said they should have aborted me. As time went on, we eventually moved back to Indiana when I was 8. I remember when we left, my father had all of us in the car and he dumped our dog and drove away laughing manically. This had a profound effect on me for the rest of my life. I bond with animals better than humans. My father secured a job at International Harvester working in the foundry. They were able to purchase a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. Things started to seem like we're going to have a normal life, but that didn't last long. By the time I turned 10, I knew something was seriously wrong with my family of origin. My mother was not employed at this time. She had always given me responsibility for my siblings. I was in charge of cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Also had to make my parents' bed and clean up their cum-stained cloths and sheets. My mother sat on her fat ass doing crossword puzzles and issuing orders to me. She had this system of metting our chores for stars on this paper tracking system on the refrigerator door. The narcissist throwing crumbs to her children for taking her adult responsibilities. My mother came from an alcoholic family from Kentucky that produced 8 children. My grandmother worked at a department store to support everyone. My grandfather was an unemployed coal miner who lived in the dirt basement. We had to go there every Sunday for family dinners. It was very dysfunctional, yet they tried to make it appear normal. Later on, 2 uncles committed suicide due to my narcissistic grandmother. Eventually, my mother got a job working a clerical position at a hospital. Of course, more responsibilities were placed on me. I was a straight-A student in elementary and middle school. This was never enough. I was always asked, why not an A+? This caused me to become a perfectionist. I thought if I were perfect, they would love me. The golden child continued to receive all the accolades. They will never love you. There is no such thing as perfection for you. During these years, my father was very violent towards me. I remember spilling a glass of milk at the dinner table and he slapped my face. Oh yeah, I ran to the bedroom and no one cared to check on me. He frequently hit me on the side of the head, smacking my ears. He would also hold me down, tickling and rubbing his beard growth on my face until it was beet red. That's why I wear a hat. That's why my ears are usually covered. If I don't have a hat, I have a hood up. Because when my head is exposed, I constantly feel like I could get attacked at any time. Constantly. As I started to go through puberty, things got worse. They made fun of my breast and bought me a training bra. They announced this in front of the entire family at my grandmother's house, that they are training them to do some tricks. What a bunch of sick fucks. I had to hide deodorant. I had to hide razors. Because I didn't want them to know I needed to start shaving or using deodorant, because my mother, they would make these announcements and humiliate you with it. The story even gets more grotesque. On my 13th birthday, my parents bought me crotchless panties in this green color. My father gave them to me and shoved me to the floor, holding me down, trying to place his tongue in my mouth. This occurred as my mother and siblings watched. After this incident, I ran away from home. I would hope so. I remember him riding on his motorcycle trying to find me. I finally went back home and he threw me down and blacked my eyes as my mother watched. I went to school with blackened eyes, and no teacher from Jefferson High School asked what happened. I could still remember swimming in the pool with those injuries. Horrible memories. At 13, I was molested by an uncle who was married to my mother's sister. He was a musician for a band called NRBQ. Then my mother's brother began molesting me at the age of 14. I used to babysit his kids while his wife at the time went out. He would give me drugs and wine and then have me perform oral and vaginal sex. This went on for a year. Out of all this, I became very promiscuous as a result of the abuse. I can't tell you how many partners I have had. I was sent down a bad path of self-destruction at the hands of my family. By this time, my father was losing his job due to a strike. The house became even more chaotic. My mother started having an affair with her boss. My grades dropped in high school and everything really deteriorated. The household violence escalated during this time. My parents would have verbal and physical altercations. I frequently broke up their knife fights. I remember kicking my father in the nuts to keep him from hitting her. By the time I turned 17, I saw so much violence that it scared me forever. The cramped living space created additional stress. Frequently while I showered, my father would come in and take a shit in the bathroom. So disgusting. That's what my wife's father would do. This next incident was a huge turning point for me at 17. My parents were showering in a little shitty bathroom. They left the TV on and I decided to turn on the stereo to hear music before meeting my friends. My father emerged from the bathroom in a rage because I turned off the TV. I ran back to my bedroom and he was going to hit me. I told him not to do it. I had a large glass bottle filled with coins. I picked it up and he tried to strike me and I hit him in the head. He began bleeding profusely. I left and returned hours later. He never touched me again after that. Good. I should also include the molestation by my sociology teacher in high school. He preyed on girls like me. They always told me to get the fuck out by turning 18. I left and attended a computer school while I lived with my grandmother. This was when I met my first husband, who was in the Air Force stationed in California. I left Indiana and flew to California to get married to another narcissistic person. He was physically abusive to me. He beat me and blackened both of my eyes. I studied law enforcement books at the Air Force Library, and I had a natural ability for the profession. On-the-job training from the beginning of my life. I applied and got accepted and went through the academy. Scored top 10 on my graduating class. Narcissistic husband was very jealous of the accomplishment. I finally was able to divorce him and move on with my life. In the meantime, I traveled back to Indiana to help my mother with her domestic violence issues. My father kidnapped her from a parking garage and held her at gunpoint. Back then in Indiana and Kentucky, the domestic violence laws were antiquated. I tried to help her with restraining orders, but found out later she was fucking her boss and my father at the same time frame. A few years later, I met my second husband on the job. He was very narcissistic and protective at the same time. He came from a very abusive upbringing as a result from his narcissistic mother. There was also sexual abuse from his Boy Scout leader. After we were married, my father stabbed my mother and her boss in a restaurant in Indiana. I was not surprised what happened. She created the outcome of their relationship. He was sentenced to 25 to life in the Indiana penal system. I still maintain contact with her, as I was the one to protect and defend her. She brainwashed me into thinking she was the victim. Her mantra is victimhood. I continued to try to gain her acceptance by sending elaborate gifts at all the holidays. She never thanked me for anything I sent. I finally stopped seeking approval through gifts. As years went on and the stresses of a law enforcement career, my marriage deteriorated. We both worked in very violent areas in the county of San Bernardino, California. Eventually, I got into riding horses to help with my stress. I competed in an adult amateur rider in dressage. It was my passion and therapy for all the abuse. I could tell my mother was very jealous of my success in my career. By that time, I was a captain on the sheriff's department. My husband was also very jealous of my success since I outranked him. The marriage was in a bad place for years. I was in denial about how bad it really was. In 2004, I finally told my mother about the molestations that occurred. She seemed dismissive. In 2005, she came to visit us uninvited despite me declining her. She was trying to suck me back into the narcissistic dynamic. She stayed for 2 weeks and we had an argument about the past. She tried gaslighting me, but it didn't work. She left the next day and I haven't seen her since. I went no contact in 2008 after I found out she continued a relationship with her brother who molested me. In 2010, my father died in prison from a stroke. That was too easy for an asshole like him. In 2012, I retired early due to some good financial investments. I really started drilling down into all the things in my life as a result of my narcissistic parents. In 2014, I met my soulmate and divorced my husband at 25 years. I'm still examining the entire journey that I've been on. We are living our life together with joy and happiness. There is more to tell, Ollie. I'll try to condense the information for the first video. Couple things here. First of all, it's a very well written story. The thing with the multiple partners, and here's what I'm going to say about what I've, especially with you being 58, the time you joined the PD after what you went through. You said you don't even know how many partners you had. The police department is, and I'm sure I don't got to tell you this, okay, is riddled with narcissism. Is riddled with narcissism. Okay? So, you became a cop for the same reason I was going to become a cop and went the career path I went, I think. You became a cop to protect yourself from your parents. To protect yourself from your mother, to protect yourself from your father, to protect yourself from the molesters, to protect yourself from the gaslighting. That's why you became a cop. That's why you saw your out and you took it. So it got you out of the first marriage, got you into the second marriage. Okay, though it was unhealthy, okay, I think that second marriage, that second marriage got you through to probably 25 years on the job, And once that was over, the marriage, I know the marriage had other issues in it anyway, I'm sure. Understand why you took the steps in life that you took. Okay, and the things that you tolerated. I mean, you're a captain in San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. That's a pretty big department. And your father's went to prison for 25 years for stabbing your mother. And you know now that your mother, and you're basically saying, like, yeah, he's a guilty piece of shit, but you know she's half to blame for that shit. You know she was, and that's not to say she deserved it. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Okay? Your father didn't just decide one day, I'm just going to start stabbing people. No, she was carrying on an affair. She was pushing his buttons. We know what it is. That woman is dangerous. That woman, that is someone who doesn't care whose life she destroys, because it's all about hers. So if she's going to cheat on her husband and have him put away now, get him to a point where he goes away for 25 years and dies in prison, why would you have her around ever again? Well, it doesn't seem like you are anymore. And that's a good thing. But understand, what happened to you as a child is exactly why you became a cop. It's the same reason I went the same career path, because I knew that authority would chill them out and keep them at an arm's distance. It's the same thing you did. But your mother's still dangerous, so. But amazing story. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for your contribution and sending this in. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance.